Hello again, Bernie Miklasz here with another Bernie Show on STL Sports Central presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Yes, I am Bernie Miklasz, and yes, same guy that's been writing and talking about St. Louis area sports since 1985. I do 5 videos and write 5 columns each week here on STL Sports Central. And don't forget, I join my friend Randy Carricker on his show here on our site every Friday morning at 10:30. You can catch me frequently on KMOX. I do a Seeing Red podcast on the Cardinals with Will Leach, and I join Katie Wu on the Cardinal Territory video and podcast once or twice a week. Thank you for all of your support of all my various endeavors as I keep grinding away. The Cardinals are kind of doing that. And that's today's topic. The crazy Cardinals. There they go again. Hey, I fell asleep a little earlier on Tuesday night and missed the Cardinals rally from being down 5 runs after 6 innings. The team didn't roll over, and unlike me, they didn't go to sleep. They climbed out of that imposing pit to stun the Giants for a 9-8 victory at Oracle Park in San Francisco. I haven't been feeling well, and I couldn't fight off the sleep this time for a late-night baseball game. But when I realized the Cardinals had emerged from such a bad spot to win the game after another terrible start from, by Andre Pallante, yeah, you bet. I went back and watched the final 3 innings. That cost me some sleep, but it was worth it. An extra cup of coffee never hurt anybody. So with the win, the Cardinals eliminated the Giants from the 3rd wild card spot. The Giants are officially out of the race. And the Cardinals, the Redbirds are flapping their wings. They're rather furiously, I might add, though, even though they're still alive in their last gasp wild card pursuit, they're not going to be able to escape their inevitable fate. I guess stranger things have happened. I don't think it's going to happen this time, though. Anyway, with 4 games left on the schedule going into Wednesday, the St. Louis Cardinals trail the Mets by 3.5 games in their too late bid for the 3rd wild card. Not only that, but the Cardinals have the Reds and the Diamondbacks parked in front of them. Those 2 teams are closer to the Mets. I'm not here to analyze the wild card chances of a team that's been 11 games under 500 since sweeping the Guardians back in that late June weekend. And since that point, the Cardinals have the National League's 3rd worst record since leaving Cleveland. Their offense lacks pretty much of everything. They don't have enough power, enough speed, and enough skill to get on base with the sufficient frequency that you want to set up run scoring opportunities. They don't play small ball very well. And that's why the Cardinals, over their last 73 games, ranked 29th in the majors in runs scored, 29th in homers, 29th in slugging, 29th in OPS. Catch my drift. That's all there for you. And the Cardinals' crummy starting pitching has been woeful, having gotten ravaged for a 5.48 ERA since June the 30th. Only 3 teams in the majors have a worse starting pitching ERA than the Cardinals over that time. Bullpen's good, though. Still good. But the Cardinals in 2025, they just won't be making the playoffs, which at least will save, 25 million podcasts about, will fans show up for the playoff games, and all that stuff. That's going to be a big story moving forward, but I don't know. I would say give it a rest, at least for now. Don't worry about hypothetical crowds, because there won't be any postseason baseball at Busch Stadium this year. Anyway, it's all right. The reputation of St. Louis as America's best baseball town probably has taken some hits this season, but I completely understand why that is, and I understand why so many fans stayed away from home games this year. But it's unrealistic to expect media and fans in other places to realize what's happened and why frustration here is justified. And the Cardinals, and I'm always going to say this because I don't believe in having revisionist history. I also don't believe in having selective memories, and I still believe in facts, which is strange. Gosh, it's like my wife told me the other day. She said, "You and those facts, it is 2025 in America, right? You realize that facts don't really matter anymore." I said, "Well, call me old school. I still like facts anyway." Based on the facts, the Cardinals remain one of the most prestigious franchises in baseball, and Bill DeWitt Jr.'s overall record as a team owner is exceptional. But the Cardinals let their own high standards fall, and they could have done something about it, but they failed to do anything about it. They didn't adapt, they didn't adjust, they didn't modernize, they didn't turn to new front office leadership sooner than they did. It's all on them. But now the Cardinals must regroup and rebuild under Chaim Bloom, and I anticipate Busch Stadium to be even less populated in 2026. We'll see. Look, I love watching baseball. The only reason why I was recapping what we already knew about the poor attendance by Cardinal standards at Busch Stadium this year is because it's an entryway into something I wanted to talk about. It's why I fight sleep to stay up to watch the Cardinals playing West Coast baseball. I do that for the Blues too. But I love, I just love watching baseball. Sometimes when you love baseball so much that it sort of transcends your feelings about the local team, and you want to watch the local team because it's your local team. And my employment is absolutely linked to the local teams because that's what I talk about and write about and everything else. And don't get me wrong, what I wanted to say, let me back up a moment. I love watching ball. I love watching Cardinals baseball. I don't require a long, prosperous sequence of division titles, playoff appearances, high-level postseason success to be happy. Don't get me wrong. Having a great team, as we have had here for most of the way of the last 30 years, and having all these incredible Hall of Fame players representing the city, representing the birds on the bat, yeah, that makes it a lot more enjoyable. But personally speaking, I'm weird, I guess. I can always find something to enjoy. Maybe that comes from my experience going all the way back to I was age 16, 15, then 16 in the middle of a hockey season. Gosh, that's a long time ago, 50 years. Woo! I had season tickets to the 1974-1975 Washington Capitals. I worked extra hours. I mean, a lot of extra hours in my grandparents' store just so I could save up enough money to buy those season tickets at a student discount, but still not something that was like pocket change, right? So I worked a lot of long hours for my grandparents, and it was worth it because I paid up those tickets in advance, and I saved up that money in advance, and in exchange, I got the joy, and yes, I'm not being sarcastic, I got the joy of watching the expansion team Capitals in their first season in the NHL win 8 games, lose 67 games, and scratch for 5 ties. Yes, for those who weren't familiar with that, I have mentioned it through the years because it was a fun experience actually. 8, 67, and 5. And I loved all of it. I couldn't wait to get in the car and drive to the arena for the next home game every single time. And I also, just to give you an idea where I'm coming from on this, because your background does determine a lot of things. It can shape your viewpoint. I also come from a sprawling Baltimore Polish family that had Baltimore Colts season tickets, around 25 of them, maybe 30 of them, something like that, for every game the Colts played at Memorial Stadium from 1953 through 1983. There was a season ticket drive. I think Baltimore had to sell 10,000, maybe 12,000 season tickets before the NFL would agree to allow the Dallas Texans to move from Dallas to Baltimore as the new NFL team in Baltimore, or the first NFL team in Baltimore. So all my Polish uncles, grandfather, my cousins, everybody chipped in. My father, of course, my godfather chipped in, went down in a part of that season ticket drive. Our family got the 25 or the 30 season tickets, original season ticket holders. And those tickets remained in the family, even though the generations changed, whatnot. Those tickets remained in the family. Again, from 1953 through 1983, and there were some great teams led by John Unitas, Lenny Moore, Raymond Berry. Who else? I'm leaving somebody out. Big Jim Parker, right? A bunch of them. A lot of great players. But there were also so many seasons filled with chaos and losses and bad owners and the whole bit. But there was never any thought of giving up the season tickets and staying away from Colts home games. And that was our family's attitude. And it was my attitude. And my attitude stayed firm until the Colts moved to Indianapolis. And by then I was actually covering the franchise. In other words, the only time I gave up my seat at Colts game was when I became a sports writer and I was assigned to the Colts beat by the old Baltimore News American. And that was in like 1982, 83. So instead of being in the stands with all of my peoples, I'm up in the press box doing my thing. It felt weird. I wanted to actually be in the stands, but I am proud of the loyalty that my elders displayed. They set a good example for me. I started going to games when I was 6 years old, and even during the hard times that followed, I always had fun at the game. Every now and then, my Polish grandfather would want to go, even though he was older and, he didn't get around as well. Most of the times he didn't want to go. Every now and then he'd wake up on a Sunday and he'd feel good. And he'd call my father and say, I'm going to go today. And so that meant that I was out, right? That meant I was designated for assignment on that Sunday. No Colts game for me. And I was always sad, not mad at my grandfather, but always sad. My father would try to call around, see if he could scrounge up a ticket from one of my cousins or one of his cousins or whatever. But sometimes couldn't find that extra ticket because our family held on to those things as if they were, $100 bills or whatever. But I always had fun at the game, always wanted to be there, no matter how bad it got. So listen, I'm not saying this. I'm not telling you these things to like lecture anybody. Well, see, you should go to games, even if the team's. I'm not saying that at all. But if you wonder why I see things the way I do, I'm just giving you some background to explain it. I don't expect anybody to, the way I do things, they have to do it the same way. No, are you kidding? Personal choice, man. Do what you want, right? I don't expect anybody to feel the same way in terms of I do, in that I have this perspective where I can tolerate losing to an extent, and everyone, however, should do what works best for them, whatever satisfies them. And if it means staying away to deliver a strong message for the DeWitts, okay, that's an admirable stand to take. You took a stand. I respect that. But I'm a guy who still finds small pleasures in Cardinals games. Even if the team stinks, it's having a lousy season, it's mediocre, going through 3 straight seasons as they are now without making the playoffs. I still find stuff I like to watch. I still find stuff that make me want to, in effect, stand and applaud, even though I don't do that when I'm sitting at home watching games. See, there's 2 sides of me, and I'm not a phony. It just means I'm able to compartmentalize and separate the 2 sides. I told you the stories about Bernie the fan. That's me. You're growing up, sitting there, the happiest kind of face of the earth, watching a hockey team that went 867-5. I couldn't wait to get there to that old arena in Landover. That's Bernie the fan. But there is another Bernie, because my dream was to be a sports writer, and I realized my dream. And so anything that came after that makes me a truly blessed and lucky man. So the other Bernie not only was a sports writer, a beat writer, a columnist, a blogger, also a sports talk host in 3 or 4 different cities, including St. Louis, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Dallas, Texas. And then a podcaster, as I am now, and in addition to my writing duties. And also, what was I going to say? I created an online forum when I was at the STL Today Post-Dispatch, an online forum for fans when there was no one for any kind of mainstream newspaper in America doing it. I was way ahead of my curve on that. And I do take pride in that. I've always tried to stay up with the times, even get ahead of the times. I remember sports writers say, what are you doing in that forum? You can't do that. I said, well, why not? And they said, well, you go in there and they throw insults at you, and you kind of get nasty, and it goes back and forth. And I said, well, number one, don't you think, I don't know, if people want to talk to me, they should be able to talk to me. At that time, I had time to answer stuff and respond to stuff. These days, and I've mentioned this in the video, I don't have free time. I swear I don't. But I love the comments, and I love when you tell me whatever you want to say, even if you want to tell me off. That's totally cool. So yeah, I've tried to be involved in all forms of media. So I've been very blessed with my life in terms of my chosen career. So Bernie the fan is still there though, but yeah, the two Bernies can exist at the same time. And that's why I can smile when the Cardinals keep grinding away, grabbing unexpected victories at a time when we would expect them to be packing it in and packing it up to go to the offseason. And I am well aware of the many flaws, and you know that if you already read me or listen to me or watch me on these videos, but the fan in me can also appreciate the simple pleasures. Without enjoying those simple pleasures, even in a disappointing season, even in a frustrating season, what's the point of being a fan if you can't enjoy some of it? That's my view. And if we disagree once again, that's fine. No problem. I'm not in charge. Anyway, with the season winding down, I'm going to explain to you why I still can smile when watching the Cardinals, because there are some things about this team I still like right down to the bitter end. And I would say that if I was a fan of any other team in the same situation that the Cardinals are in, if I loved the team, I'd still find some stuff that would give me joy. You know, you take it where you can get it. I'll get deeper into this in my next segment. And later in my third and final segment, I'm going to borrow a little something from a column I wrote to explain some of my frustration with the 2025 Cardinals. It is not so much the players and the dugout staff. It's about some things that could have been done that weren't done, should have been done, whatever. You'll hear what I talk about here in a little while. But first, let's take a break so I can tell you some exciting news from DraftKings Sportsbook. Missouri, get ready. The wait is almost over. Happy days. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me State, or as I'm going to start calling it, the Show Me the Money State, with this DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. You can sign up today. Yep, get a head start on it. Because when it comes to like December 1st, you don't want to be fumbling around. Well, how do I do this? Wait a minute. I wanted to put some money down on this game. Wait a minute. It's a half an hour before kickoff, that kind of thing. No, just sign up in advance. And new Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when we launch on December the 1st. Not too far from now. So download now and place a $5 bet when DraftKings Sportsbook officially goes live on December 1st. And DraftKings Sportsbook, you don't have to shop anywhere else. You don't have to look anywhere else. I've been a DraftKings guy years before the good people at DraftKings asked to present the Bernie Show. And I used to have a ball playing all the type of things you could play fantasy league stuff on DraftKings. Just had a ball doing it. Still do. Now we go to the next level. And DraftKings Sportsbooks brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when we officially go live in Missouri, you're going to be betting with the Sportsbook app, trusted by millions because it is safe and it is secure. You've got fast money withdrawals. It is very well organized. You will find information that will help you make up your mind in terms of where you put the money. All right, listen, I'll wrap this up. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets, which is a $5 bet when we go live December 1st. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 or over, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after being issued. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. You can find the terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Thank you, DraftKings. Welcome back to the second segment of 3 segments today. This is number 2. And just a quick reminder, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you can do with one click, and then hit that like button as well. It really does help us at STL Sports Central, and all of us here at STL Sports Central. Thank you very much. One of the reasons why I don't tune out a team that's having a mediocre season or worse, it's the players. Because there's always good players on any team that you care about. There's always something to watch, somebody worth your time. And that's kind of the mindset I have. Not only as a fan, but as someone who follows this team and covers this team and writes about it and talks about it. But I figure players, if anybody wants to support a team because of the players, I'm with that. I mean, none of these players own the team. None of these players run the team. None of these players set the payroll. None of these players construct the roster. None of these players, are in charge of running the draft, the June baseball draft. You know what I'm saying? All the players can do is their best, whatever their best is, no matter what the circumstances are. The players don't set the payroll and build the roster and all that other stuff I just mentioned. Their job is to play ball and do everything they can to win, do everything they can to improve. And this latest display, talking about the big comeback last night, it was definitely an entertaining comeback win. I don't care if the Cardinals are, if even have been 10 games out of a playoff spot. It was just good baseball. And I always like late night baseball anyway. And the 2025 Cardinals, I must say, have been relentless this season in erasing the other team's leads to claim a low probability victory. After Tuesday's rally for a win, the Cardinals now have 39 comeback victories this season, which is tied for 6th in the majors. These Cardinals, for example, have more comeback wins this season than the Brewers, the Cubs, the Yankees, the Mets, Red Sox, Astros, Diamondbacks, Tigers, Guardians, Giants, and Rangers, plus obviously some other teams as well. Now, the Cardinals, who had a winning record last year, had 33 comeback wins in 2024. That's good. They've topped that by 6 in 2025. The 2024 team had better starting pitching and a slightly better offense. But anyway, the Cardinals have topped that by 6 comeback wins above last year in 2025. This team right now with the 39 comeback wins, it's only one fewer comeback than that loaded 22 Cardinals squad had. They notched 40 comeback victories with the NL MVP and Goldschmidt, the third place finisher, and the wins above replacement leader in the entire league in Nolan Arenado, plus Albert Pujols. And you had good pitching, especially after John Mozeliak made those trades for Montgomery and Quintana. The bullpen was strong. The depth was good. I mean, really good. 93 wins, won the division. That team had 40 comebacks. This team right now, which is not nearly as talented, to put it mildly, only one less comeback than the 2022 Cardinals had in what was the final season of a great era of Cardinals baseball. I mentioned that. I make my notes here, so let me go back to what I was saying. So there have been times this season, and I think this is an important thing to point out. And when I say it's important to point out, let me tell you this. I point this out to myself throughout the season. I say, Bernie, got to listen to this, because you're writing. You wrote the other day that they look flat, that they look like they weren't competing, and blah blah blah. Bernie, be careful with that stuff, because you know better. And yeah, I do know better, but I'm like anybody else. Sometimes I just get so fed up watching something. I'm going to vent a little, right? Doesn't make my opinions correct. I'm just saying I'm going to vent a little. And even though I have fussed here and there, overall, I really do respect the way this team has competed in 2025. And over the years, I have, even though I stray at times, not often, but I've learned how to differentiate between a lethargic offense and a lethargic team. And yeah, there is a difference. The Cardinals are not a good team offensively. Big scoop, right? Yeah. This season, they've been shut out 13 times. They've scored exactly 1 run 19 times. They've scored exactly 2 runs in 19 other games. The Redbirds have scored no more than 3 runs in 70 of their games, and they lost 55 of the 70. They have, especially since late June, they have a lousy offense. So when a team doesn't score much, it looks uninspired. It looks like it's lacking in energy. It's looking like it doesn't have much urgency. But the overriding reason for all of that, the way it looks, and the overriding reason for all the low-scoring games is simply a lack of talent. They don't have enough good hitters. They don't have dudes. We talk about that a lot. So I really try hard not to confuse a lack of talent with a lack of effort, because one has nothing to do with the other. And despite a weak offense and a starting rotation that puts a team behind early in too many games, The Cardinals are an impressive 26-20 this season in one-run games. That's another sign of how they battle. And remember, they lost their first 5 one-run games this season. So after going 0-5 in the first 5 one-run games decisions this season, they're 26-15 in one-run decisions since then. And again, that's a team that sticks with it. That's a team that'll grind and fight you through as long as you want to stand there. They'll go. It helps to have a terrific bullpen, and the Cardinals have had that for the last 2 seasons under the direction of Ollie Marmol. And I'm not going to go into this again, but for people who give him credit for nothing, I have got a stack of facts and stats that would I could do a 5-hour video on. So I always have the stats and the facts on my side. You can base your decisions on whether someone's doing a good job or whatever it may be. You can use whatever criteria you want. I like the facts. Yeah, I do. And even if the facts go against something that I thought, always look for the facts. That's me. Silly old outdated me. Anyway, battling hard to win so many close games is another indication of the Cardinals' admirable competitiveness, which is still there when the offense stalls, and it's still there when the starting pitchers get clobbered, which was the case last night. So even though the Cardinals haven't been a realistic threat in a playoff race for a long time, let's be honest here, which we are. The only reason the Cardinals are just hanging around is because the Mets have been falling all over the place, leaving that gate wide open for not only the Cardinals, but the Reds, the Diamondbacks, the Giants. Yeah, I don't know if I'm leaving anybody else out. Well, and the Cardinals too. So, the Mets are the reason why all these teams are still, still trying to scrap or have been trying to scrap the last week or so. So the Cardinals, look, deep down inside, I think they know. I think they know that, I think they knew a couple weeks ago that they had a 5-game losing streak. Remember that? They're probably thinking, that's it. It's just, it ain't going to happen. But did they stop competing? No. They kept rallying again, time and time again. They may look like one of the worst teams you've ever seen. Then the next night they're coming back and they're rallying for a win where you're like, man, they just don't go away, do they? So remember the thing I just mentioned, that 5-game losing streak? Since then, the Cardinals have rebounded to win 6 of their last 9 games. Does that make them a great team? Does that make them special? Are they the 2019 Blues or the 1999 greatest show on turf Rams? No, of course not. But a 5-game losing streak, your season for all intents and purposes is over competitively. They don't care. They want to go out and play ball. They want to have fun. They want to go after it. I respect them for plugging away despite their obvious gaps in talent and all the stuff they've been through, which had nothing to do with them as far as the things that materialize beyond their control. And that's going to bring me here to one more thing I want to talk about. The Cardinals are 78-80 for a record that sums up who they are from a talent standpoint, but they're actually better than that record is better than it should be based on run differential. I've talked about that a lot. They should be much worse. I didn't look that up this morning, but the last time I looked, the Cardinals should be about 5 games worse in the standings than they are. But because of the Mets stumbling around so much, the Cardinals have been, even as I talk about this, they've been able to stay within 3.5 games of the final wildcard ticket. Not that they're going to win it, but they've just been down in it, still in it technically, and still fighting as if they think they're in it here in the final days, the final hours of the season. If this team lacked competitive character, it wouldn't have happened. The Cardinals had plenty of opportunities to sort of bail out, if you will, but they didn't. And whenever they looked, when they usually, when they had some bad stretches of baseball, they would always, not always, but often have a really good response to that. The Mets gave them a chance, however, and the Cardinals haven't fully maximized the opportunity. And that got me to thinking yesterday. Some of you may have read the column I wrote. I'm going to borrow from that a little bit for those who didn't. Look, I appreciate if you read me and watch these and listen to these videos. But I listen, I'm grateful for any type of support you give me. So for the people that don't want to read the columns, but they like just listening to me, bluster about this or that, I'll just give you some excerpts or just the genesis, the main points of what I wrote about yesterday. And it's not because I'm lazy and I wanted to steal from myself. You should know me better than that. In fact, I probably write more than I have to. But I love doing it. But sometimes there will be a crossover. Sometimes what I write about is applicable to something I'm talking about on the video. This is one of those times. But first, it's time for me to give the gents out there a little pep talk about Blue Chew. Blue Chew, simply put, can raise your game, if you know what I'm talking about, for those intimate and pleasurable times with your partner. Bernie, you shouldn't be joking about this. This is important. No, that's the whole point. I don't feel awkward about talking about this. I've been there and done that. I know what Blue Chew has done for me, and why shouldn't I pass it along what Blue Chew can do for you? I like to have fun with the messaging, right? It's okay. It's okay to get the message out and have a little fun too. Maybe some people laugh and they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, Blue Chew works. It's worked for me. So yeah, I like those little inside jokes. See, I provide entertainment as well as information. Anyway, gentlemen, Blue Chew can power you up. Big Blue, I like to call it. There's no need for you to hesitate, be awkward. Just get it done. Chew it and do it. And as I said, I'm Social Security agent. I know what Blue Chew continues to do for me. So I am proud to let you know about it, because I'd like to see you have a more fulfilled life with your better half. And if you need a stronger bat, Blue Chew's is right there in the equipment room waiting for you. So go get it. And then once you get it, then go get it done in the bedroom or any other damn room in the house. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for enhanced performance. You will get your first month of Blue Chew free. You're just a few clicks away. I'll tell you how. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you are approved, you'll receive your prescription at your doorstep. Well, my doorstep too when I ordered, but you'll receive your prescription at your doorstep in a few days after you order online, once you're approved. It's all done online, simple and private, no lines to wait in, no awkward conversations. Again, go get it. It's easy. Then chew and do it. Try your first month of Blue Chew free. When you use the promo code Bernie, just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code Bernie to get your first month free. And the only cost to you is the $5 shipping fee. $5. That's it. And you get the first month free. Blue Chew. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew very much for sponsoring the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Center. All right. As I mentioned earlier, I wrote something about this in my Tuesday Redbird review, which you can still find. It's still there at stlsportscentral.com. But seeing how the Cardinals have hung in there, pardon me, to this late stage of the season, within striking distance of a wild card spot, even though it was very unrealistic they'd get there, I thought it was enough to where I thought, you think about the way this season went even before it started. What if? What if this? What if that? Because you can't go into a season anticipating that the Mets, a team with, it has a $338 million payroll, and if you count the luxury taxes they're going to pay, it's a $361 million payroll this season. You can't say, well, why don't we go add a couple players, and because the Mets are going to be very disappointing, and they'll give us a chance. No one can plan for that, but you can plan to make your team better. And we all know that the Cardinals took the offseason off. It's another reason why I appreciate the players they have. You don't think the players would have liked to have more talent around them this season, right? I think the players are kind of on your side in an indirect way, right? They would have liked to have had a better chance to win. But anyway, I started in my mind playing the what if game. So let's play it, right? And so this way, if you don't read what I wrote, which is a longer form version of this, I'll fill you in, basically. Okay, what if Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman had given the Cardinals more offense? I call them, I've renamed the runway season, the Project Runway season. You may be familiar with the TV show, but this is the Cardinals version, Project Runway. I didn't update last night's stats. It doesn't matter that much, although Walker might have, I think he had a hit. He was pretty active in that game. But anyway, not including Tuesday's game, it doesn't change the finding. Walker and Gorman have combined for a .210 batting average this season. The two are collectively, plus a 35% strikeout rate, and both of their the slugging percentages are not good, especially Gorman, because he was over 400 and keeps sinking in that area. Defensively, Walker and Gorman, no matter where they play, they're collectively minus 13 in defensive runs saved and a minus 12 in outs above average. Finally, Walker and Gorman, their combined wins above replacement this season is minus 1.3 WAR. In other words, they are below the replacement level player. In other words, this would be like saying, Gorman, we're going to send you down and we're going to bring up Jose Fermin. And people would say, Jose Fermin, well, he's kind of a replacement level player, isn't he? Yeah. And he's better, small sample, but he's been better than Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman. That's what we mean by replacement level player. Although Jose Fermin's actually done really well this year in limited time. So anyway, total mess, Walker and Gorman. Suppose they would have had even a decent season, even a solid season. Not asking them to be, guys that could have played for Tony La Russa's Oakland A's or anything like that. I'm talking about a reasonably solid season. How many more wins would the Cardinals have right now, right? Okay. What if the Cardinals said, you know what? No, we're not going to do the Project Runway. We're going to have to cut the payroll and all that, but we still should try to put a little bit more into winning games without making full concessions to the, quote, playing the young guys thing, even if the young guys don't deserve to be in the lineup. Ali Marmol was put in a very difficult situation, having to balance winning and player development at the same time. There was no clear direction, no clear priority from above. It's pretty hard when you're trying to juggle two priorities or mixed priorities, right? I would say that about any manager in that job right now. Okay, next. What if the Cardinals had merely spent a little more on payroll? I'm not, I do take blood pressure medication and a couple other medications, but I'm not on drugs, as in like hardcore drugs that scramble your brains. I knew the Cardinals weren't going to like spend more than they did last year. But what if the cuts weren't so drastic? Let's just say they spent another 8 to 10 million, 8 to 11 or 12 million for this season. They still would have been well below their payroll last year. I mean, just look at how much value the Cardinals received from a modest $2 million investment on a one-year contract for the reliever, free agent reliever Phil Maton. This team desperately needed a competent right-handed hitter to use in the outfield because the Cardinals have so many left-handed hitting outfielders. And that's one of the reasons why left-handed pitchers carved them up this season. The Cardinals didn't have enough balance. If they would have signed one right-handed hitter, they could play in the outfield, and there were guys available at reasonable cost on one-year deals, they would have had a better offense with the other team throwing left-handers at them. That's one example of what I'm talking about. Would it have cost them a fortune? No, the exact opposite of a fortune. A one-year stopgap at a reasonable price that would have really paid off because one of your worst weaknesses would have at least been shored up to at least some extent. Okay, what if the front office had cleared Eric Fetty from the roster much earlier in the season than they did to give the rotation spot to Michael McGreevy? Listen, I'm not saying Michael McGreevy is Danny Cox, okay? The vintage Danny Cox, right? But all I know, he's a tough kid. He's really smart. He knows how to navigate his way through games. He competes till Ali Marmol has to come out and pull him off the mound. This is not a guy that sits there moping when things go bad. No, he fights back. I love the kid for that much. And I think you could do a lot worse for a fifth starter in your rotation. But anyway, I'm getting off track a little bit. This season, the Cardinals were basically a lost cause, other than 2 or 3 really good starts. I mean, just a lost cause. When Fetty started a game this year, they were 5-15 in those games. And you know what they are this year when McGreevy starts? 10-5. So think about that a minute. I mean, think about that. They entered this week they entered last night's game 3.5 games out of first place or out of the third wild card spot. Imagine if McGreevy, instead of those 20 starts going to Fetty, or even 15 or 12 of those starts going to Fetty, think about if they had gone to McGreevy instead. And along the same path, and I realize the Cardinals don't have a lot of depth in the minor leagues. What if Andre Pallante had been pulled from the rotation earlier for just cause, for just reasons? He's really terrible. There's no other way to say it. And in his last 15 starts, the Cardinals did win last night. Not that he deserved any credit, but before that, the Cardinals were 2-13 in his previous 15 starts. I really believe this. When you look at Pallante's poor strikeout rate, his ERA is way, way over 5. You really could have pulled some journeyman minor league starter from AAA up here who could have done better than that. Again, the Cardinals, is for all their flaws, were kind of close in this thing. They didn't expect to be, but they were kind of close on this thing. And if you'd just done a little bit more, or you would have responded to roster things with urgency, which they did not. That's the front office. What if the front office, here's the next one. What if they had added talent at the trade deadline? Now, let me say this. That's not realistic given the stance of ownership in the front office about what this season was about for the most part. They weren't going to give up anything to get anything. I get that. But that's why it's what if. You can have it both ways. No one was asking the Cardinals to trade a couple of their top 10 or 15 prospects, right? Nobody's saying that. But, they did offload 3 walk-year relievers, Matson, Maton, and Helsley. But, you could also pick up someone that could have helped you at the major league level for the final 2 months, someone that wouldn't cost you a prospect that you really cared about, right? Just saying. I realize it's unrealistic, but I'm just saying. Okay, this one is on point. What if Iván Herrera had remained healthy this season instead of missing 55 total games during 2 stays on the injured list? Herrera is easily the Cardinals' best hitter this season. He's performing at a level, after last night's 3-run homer, he's performing at a level that's 39% above the league average offensively based on weighted runs created plus. And because of missed time, he only ranks 7th among the Cardinals for most plate appearances. Suppose he ranked 1st or 2nd. Think of how many more runs they would have scored. Think about maybe they win 3 or 4 more games than they have up to this point. Maybe it's 5. I don't know. I do know this. The Cardinals offense clearly misses Herrera's impact when he's not there. Over the last 2 seasons, the Cardinals are 40-18 when Herrera drives in at least 1 run in a game. A lot of impact there, man. Okay, what if Brendan Donovan had stayed healthy? No reason to expand on that. What if he had stayed healthy? Look how good he looks, even though he's still got the groin thing going. 4 doubles last night. He healed up to an extent, and he's back to hitting again. What if Lars Nootbaar had supplied more offense instead of turning in the worst offensive performance of his major league career, which is a fact? What if designated number 1 starter, you noticed I used the word designated. What if the designated number 1 starter, Sonny Gray, had pitched with more consistency? Now, in games that he started and the Cardinals won, even if he didn't get the individual win, the games that they won when he started, he had a 2.94 ERA, and the opponent's batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, all looking good, no alarms. Now, in the games that the Cardinals lost when Sonny Gray started, his ERA was 7.57, and there was a booming slugging percentage against him, and about, I think, 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. What if he had just been somewhat more consistent, right? Again, I'm talking about things that are along the margins where if you just shave it and shape it this way, you do a little more out on the margins, you win an extra game here, you win 2 extra games there. Oh, you find a way to, you do some stuff that'll help you win another game as far as roster changes, the way, the players you have or the way they're deployed, whatever. They weren't that far from being even closer than where they are in the wild card standings. They'd probably be a wild card team. Finally, and people are going to say, don't make excuse. I'm really not. But the Cardinals, what if they weren't? What if they were not bogged down by having to play 6 doubleheaders? No other team in the National League played more than 4 doubleheaders. A lot of teams played 3. The Cardinals played 6. If you look at the NL Central combined, Brewers, Cubs, Reds, and Pirates, between them, they only played 5 doubleheaders combined. Cardinals had 6 by themselves. You're allowed to call up an extra pitcher and all that stuff when you have a doubleheader. But listen, when you're playing all these doubleheaders, and some of them came within pretty short time from each other, it just screws up your pitching. There's just kind of a chaos that's left over. And also when you're playing doubleheaders, not every one of your players is going to start both games. And I'm sorry to bore you with stats, but I looked this up, and the Cardinals actually did well in terms of doubleheader games. They were 8-4, but you know what the key was? They had the 9th worst record in the majors this season in the second game of a doubleheader. See, all that stuff kind of takes its toll, right? That's all I'm saying. That was a little bit extra grind in a season. All baseball seasons are tough grinds. Anyway, I've talked long enough. That's just a partial list. I could add others, but as hard as the Cardinals have worked to avoid drowning, they're still swimming, but they weren't and they're not able to overcome all of the factors that went against them in 2025, but it's almost as if they don't even know that. They just keep competing, and I tip my cap to them. I respect that. That's going to do it for me. Thanks for watching. Thanks to DraftKings and Blue Chew, and we ask you to please subscribe to our STL Sports Central YouTube channel. We got tons of content about all the teams locally that you care about, and we truly appreciate your support. Have a good rest of your day. Hello there, I'm Bernie Miklasz, and I want to take a minute to brag about everything that we're doing here on STL Sports Central. But first, if you don't mind, I'm going to tell you a quick story because I think you need to hear it. When this site began a few months ago, whenever it was, right, I was curious to see what I would find here. I love sports content, but I can be a little picky. I want it to be consistent. I want it to be smart. I want it to be fun. I want it to be something I can count on. Not every now and then, but every day if possible. Well, listen, I got all of that and then some. I was simply blown away by the huge amount of content, good content, quality content, a variety of content on this site. Hey, there's Cardinals coverage with Card Central 365, which is there for you every single day, 365 days a year. You're going to stay up to date with a great cast of hosts, my friends that include Brendan Schaefer, Mike Claiborne, Joe Roderick, Stephen Carey, Ryan Fagan, and many more. And that's not all. There's post-game shows after every game. In fact, this is about the Cardinals coverage, but there's post-game shows after every game, any St. Louis sports team, college or pro. It's amazing. And these post-game shows feature the hosts that I've already mentioned, plus in terms of the Cardinals post-games, plus Sarah Daly and Ethan Hannaford. And I'm in the bullpen in case they want to bring the old reliever out so I can holler about something. Hey, long story short, and I wasn't very short, but here's the story. I was so impressed with STL Sports Central, I knew something right away. I wanted to be part of the team, and so I am. Here I am. Please join us all. There's nothing like this in the St. Louis sports market. There is nothing like it in this market. There never has been, and we are breaking that ground. We are changing the way St. Louis sports fans consume their sports content. I'm proud to be on the squad. Thank you, and join us.